The ugly stepsister. No one in the village of Alcazar remembered exactly when the house at the end of the Daypalm Grove was last inhabited. It was always called Beit Sana, Sana's house, though no one alive claimed to have met her. Children grew up hearing stories about the ugly stepsister, who had once lived there. They said she was so jealous of her sister's beauty that she tried to curse her, but the spell backfired and warped her own soul, twisting her face into something monstrous. Of course, these were bedtime tales meant to keep children from wandering too far. But when a young teacher named Hallie moved to Alcazar from Riyadh to teach at the village's only school, she didn't believe in stories. Hallie was intelligent, composed, and devoted to her deen. She prayed 5 times a day, wore her hijab with quiet confidence, and treated everyone with kindness. She heard the warnings about Beit Sana but dismissed them as rural superstition. In fact, she found the village charming until the second week. It started with whispers, not voices, faint, dry murmurs that curled under the cracks of her door at night. She dismissed them as wind. But then came the scratching, soft at first, like fingernails against wood. One night it became so loud she thought a cat was trapped inside her cupboard. But when she opened it, only her Quran was there on the floor, pages slightly wrinkled, as if thumbed through by unseen hands. She told herself not to be shaken, but she began dreaming. In her dreams, she saw a girl in tattered green fabric, her face hidden by matted black hair. The girl would sit at the edge of a cracked mirror, humming a broken tune in a dialect older than Hallie had ever heard. Each night, the girl's reflection got closer, until Hallie would wake up sweating, hearing the same humming behind her walls. One afternoon, a student named Reem stayed behind after class. "Miss Holla," she said, fidgeting, "is it true that you're staying in Beit Sana?" Holla smiled nervously. "That's just a name, Habibti." Reem's eyes filled with tears. "My grandmother says the ugly stepsister is still in there, waiting for someone who prays, because only someone pure can see her for what she really is." That night, Hallie found old papers in a cracked compartment under her floorboards. There were handwritten letters, faded but readable. Sana wrote about her sister Layla, who was fair-skinned, beloved by the villagers, and chosen by many suitors. Sana, on the other hand, had a limp and birthmarks that covered her face. The letters grew bitter, filled with envy and obsession. The last note read, "If I cannot be loved, I will not let her be loved either. I have found the old spell. I will speak it tonight. Let the jinn makers suffer." But the ink smeared into blood like blotches at the bottom. Hallie shivered and did the only thing she knew. She began to recite Surah al-Baqarah aloud. That night, the mirror cracked. It didn't shatter, it cracked from within. Not from pressure, but as if something inside it was trying to get out. When she awoke, there were muddy footprints. Her Quran had been opened again, but this time to Surah Yusuf. And that's when it clicked. The story of jealousy, of beauty, of betrayal by kin. The house was not haunted by a demon in the Hollywood sense, but by a soul twisted by envy, empowered by an ancient jinn pact. Hallie contacted the local imam. Together, they returned with 2 other men, all of whom had memorized the Quran. They began Ruqya, reciting from Al-Baqarah and Al-Mawidatin. From the walls, a voice shrieked, not in pain, but in grief. It repeated the word "why" over and over. Then, silence. The mirror fell, shattering completely. Behind it was a hollow cavity in the wall, where they found an old doll wrapped in green fabric. Its face was smeared with something dark, and inside it was a small piece of parchment. The spell. The imam burned the doll while reciting verses. From that night on, the scratching stopped. The air felt lighter. But Hallie could never forget the last whisper she heard right before the mirror cracked. "You saw me." She stayed in the village 1 more year, then quietly moved back to the city. But every so often when she looks in the mirror at Fajr time, she swears she sees something just behind her shoulder waiting.